So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is episode number 25 of our Tea Party broadcast. So it's Monday, October 18th, 2021, brought to you by the Greenwich Tea Party Patriots and sponsored by YankeeTea.news. And we want to put in a plug for our friends here at the Parkway Diner. So I don't know if you can focus in on the Parkway part, but Parkway Diner right here on... Yes, the best, right here on High Ridge Road. They're great people here, great food. You got to come sometime. Okay, this has been one hell of a week, let me tell you. You'll notice that I put China in big red letters because, my goodness, okay? Now, there is a truism about journalism. Never trust the first account of a story. You usually have to go through 3 cycles on the story before they finally get the facts right. So, the first thing I obviously want to talk about is that hypersonic missile that went around the Earth, low Earth orbit. People were upset and they said, oh my God, China, if they launched this and they wanted to do an EMP, they could knock out all the electronics on the East Coast in minutes. So this was of concern. Now, still true, but there was some, shall we say, misunderstanding about the true technological significance of this missile because it had flown above the atmosphere in zero resistance. And on that basis alone, you're able to go pretty fast. This was recorded 21,000 miles an hour. The space shuttle does 25,000 miles an hour. So it's kind of in the same category as far as that's concerned. And then the other part is that it used what was called glide. It acted as a glide reentry vehicle. This is technology that's been around since 1958. So they weren't really demonstrating anything that was truly unusual, but it's still of concern. And the way the military in our country has reacted has been shameful. Okay, but it's up there. Now, at the same time, it should also be pointed out, we have to understand the Chinese are playing games with us in so many ways. So there was a report from econotimes.com about how they'd gotten their hands on this plan that the Chinese have for invading Taiwan. It's a 4-step plan. Now the problem is, I'm going to put this down for a minute. When you read this it's okay, but I'm going to need it again. When you read this 4-step plan, it's not very impressive. The first idea was to set up a blockade. Oh no, I'm sorry. The first one is air attacks. The first part of their plan is air attacks on Taiwan. The second is a blockade. And then they want to attack U.S. troops. And then finally they want to, and then invade the island. Okay, so this has to be put in context, like everything else. It is a first, and it's a noteworthy first. Remember, we used to have this thing called World War II where we fought the Japanese. We really didn't get along with each other very well. Oh, wait, I'm going to have to throw in an aside. Historically, there was a war in the 1840s where America and Japan cooperated. No, they fought each other. And then during the war between Japan and Russia around 1908, then we cooperated. And then we had World War II where we fought each other. And now we're back to cooperating with each other. So it's just weird how we go through these cycles with Japan in terms of how we work together and how we don't work together. Okay, so that said, now it was reported that F-35s, our most advanced jets, had flown off of this sort of light aircraft carrier the Japanese had put together. The fact of the matter is that the Japanese are working real hard on catching up militarily because they know there's going to be a conflict with China eventually. In any event, in this case, for the very first time, you had Americans flying American jets off a Japanese aircraft carrier. So that's actually geopolitically significant, and it was certainly a heads up for the Chinese as well. Now, in addition, we have been putting special forces on Taiwan, training the military there how to deal with when the Chinese invade. And guess what? The Chinese weren't too happy about that, and they said, those American troops, those Yankee dogs, they got to leave, okay? Yeah, like hell. So You can see that there's a lot of background here in terms of what's going on. And then, of course, the final part I have to throw in is still these problems with the Chinese economy. Evergrande, the $380 billion real estate developer, missed their second debt payment, all right? Now, the thing is that the Chinese government came out and said, we can handle it. You know, it may be true that they could take a large developer like that and restructure their debt and stuff, but you can only do so much of that. And the point has been made that Evergrande is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, another statistic is that real estate construction in America, it's like 5% of the economy, but real estate construction in China, 20%. So if you're wondering about those ghost cities, you know why they've been happening. All right, anyway, so let's go back to this. Thanks. Okay, so now, okay, so now we got Dr. Risch, Harvey Risch, who's a immunologist at Yale Medical School. I think he's in public health. In any event, he's been a critic of the policies concerning vaccination. And he is one person who has come out and made it very clear that people who get vaccinated are in fact the health threat, not the unvaccinated. There's other data to support that, and there are other things I'm going to get into if I can find it. But in terms of the things that I've been reading, there's a very clear trend where the argument about the unvaccinated is just falling apart, and the problems with the vaccinated are only getting worse. And so I'm going to talk about that some more as well. Then, okay, next thing is the Vax Attack update. All right, we know that over the last week that a number of companies have been pressuring their employees to get vaccinated. You had a fight with Southwest Airlines, then we got, I think it was Delta, and then with Boeing. And in the last couple of days, lawsuits have been filed again, but the sense is that these companies have had to make a decision. So Delta has backed down on their demands, as has Southwest. So we can at this time call them small victories. But you know, there's still a lot to be done. Another concern, for example, is there's the threat that 100 top scientists at Los Alamos will be fired because they refuse to get vaccinated. And then the part about how the 40% of the police for the Seattle police force, they're going to be leaving. And there was this, there was this tough video by one of these guys. It was his goodbye after what? I forget, 20, 30 years in the service or something in the police force. Okay, anyway, so there's that. Michigan, oh my goodness. All right, there's a backstory to Michigan. The place I want to start is with the DePerno, D-E-P-E-R-N-O, DePerno law firm. They have worked harder than anybody else on getting the data on election fraud in Michigan. So we know that they're one of the 5 or 6 states in which a lot of fraud went on. So he's the guy who did the grunt work to put it all together. All his efforts to get judges to hear his case, he's been turned away. Meantime, because the citizens, the people who live in Michigan, know this is not right, so in Lansing there was this huge protest. I don't know if anybody remembers hearing about it. But these people showed up and they were demanding that the audit be done. And so far there's no response. But here's what our crappy governor in Michigan decides to do. She turns to her attorney general. Let's see, what was her name? Dana Nahel, I forget what it is. In any event, so she comes out and says, oh, look, we caught 3 women who had done fraudulent absentee ballots. See, we're doing our job. We're protecting voter integrity in Michigan. What crap. When you know what DePerno's been doing, what crap. So this is another story that's still unfolding, but it just shows how the government, we'll just stick with Michigan, how they cannot be honest, they cannot face information that is uncomfortable to them, and so they pull stunts like this. Hey, newsflash, you're not fooling anybody, okay? Just letting you know. Meantime, Brisbane, I don't know if anybody's followed what's happened in Brisbane, Australia, but the the protests against vaccination have been strong, but the police are getting more and more brutal. I mean, we're seeing these videos where they're just doing horrible people to people with the least provocation. It's out of control. So, I mean, there's not much for us to say about it. We just, hope and pray that people will stand up and fight. So there's that. Now, I came across this odd term, narrative guardians. And it's what you can think of Snopes and Fact Check and these other people as being the kind who are always attacking others who come up with controversial claims. So in a sense, they're acting as narrative guardians. So I thought that was an interesting concept. Meantime, okay, time for our op-ed. Eric and I were talking about this issue over courage. Now, I wanted to talk about, Steve Bannon likes to cite Winston Churchill, who had said basically, of all the virtues, courage is the first virtue because it's the one on which all other virtues rest. And to me, it's a very powerful and persuasive statement. And we're bringing it up because, especially in Greenwich, we have seen too much evidence of people being afraid. And I can tell you, from having walked the streets, having done petition drives, just having looked people in the eye, okay, it's disturbing how many people are afraid, okay? If I had to put a number on it, it's probably 10 to 1. For every person who has the courage to stand up and say something to the Board of Education, there are 10 others who are hiding in the bushes. So many people said, yeah, I can. One, for example, I meet this guy, he's a member of the organization. He says, yeah, I agree with everything you do, but I'm afraid and I can't do anything. I said, dude, you're never going to accomplish anything if all you're going to do is be afraid. So this is an appeal to the parents in Greenwich. Anybody who sees this video, you have to find the courage. You have to find it. We're not going anywhere. We're not going to accomplish anything until you find it in your heart to do what you know needs to be done. And this, I'm just talking right now with respect to the Greenwich Board of Education. All right, we've been down this road and talking about critical race theory, and now this stuff they call transformative social emotional learning, and DEI. Please, okay. So they continue to put up a quote good fight, but it's going to take more people being more persistent and staying on their case. To wit, I want to add a plug. Somebody has expressed an interest in this. There's a proposal I made. It's called it will be the Greenwich Parents Board of Education. Not the Greenwich Board of Education, the Greenwich Parents Board of Education. All right? These people have to get together and demand every last scrap of information concerning the curriculum, the standards, the textbooks, the lesson plans, as well as going through the books in the school library to root out what is stuff that's, quite frankly, is destroying our country. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. So anybody who is inclined, we have to form that group and get to work. So I just had to throw that in. And the last thing I just wanted to talk about quickly here is 45,000 missing children. I don't know if anybody read the article, but the Department of Homeland Security had to admit, oops, we've lost track of 45,000 children. You got to let that sink in. Now, the way they set this up, okay, is that you have these unaccompanied minors coming into the country, and supposedly there's this placement process they went through where they're identifying family, relatives, and others who were supposed to sponsor these kids when they came in. Now, the problem is that the Biden administration, because the overload was too crushing, they lowered their standards for vetting the sponsors, okay? So the possibility that some number of these children have ended up in the clutches of labor contractors or sex traffickers, it's high. And so here's the problem. How are they supposed to know? How's anybody supposed to know if they've gone missing, all right? And you're going to love this. The way they determined that they were missing, so there was 114,000 phone calls made. It was something like 45,000 calls, or roughly that number, where nobody answered. wait a second, you just sent these kids off to a place and you can't get anybody? And you're not making an effort to find who's there? Are you kidding me? Anyway. Okay, so that's it for now. And go check out our website. Look at our Facebook page. You know, like us, tell your friends, and hopefully we'll be talking some more. All right, bye-bye.